red tiled roof. Well, I mean, that their building was in there in the early 30s. And it's a shrine of the fishing industry, really, isn't it?
Yes.
Because Hedler, Mr. Hedler, he had a fleet of steam trawlers, didn't he, out of Grimsby and Hull.
Yeah.
And he had that place built when he had made a bob or two, like, you know, for his retirement, I think, like, you know. So that's how it came about to be called Hedler's Mansion. All the locals called it, but I think it's called Roxburgh House, or
Walborough House.
Walborough House.
And around the edge, the architecture
the
around the edge.
cornices. But my father used to say that it's built up on a bank, and my father used to say they ought to call it the Duggar Bank, because every cut stone, every beautiful bit of timber that's in that house was made out of the fishing industry, wasn't it?
Yeah,
You know,
so we call Duggar Bank, yes.
Was it he or his brother that went from here and started making basket work, doing basket work up in Hull? And
I
started it
couldn't
off?
tell you that.
That's what I'd heard, that it was somebody in
got that story.
baskets who made the money there.
Yeah, they made money and then he came back, and I think it was either his brother or him, I'm not sure which, but Alf will tell you the story. He's got all the detail.
We must explore that sometime,
Yeah.
the history of that
There's
house.
lots, you know, lots of it, really. But it is a beautiful building. I mean, in those days, Berryhead Road was, you know, in the 30s, Berryhead Road was the most
track.
high class, like, you know.
High class, yes.
Well, a lot of retired merchant seamen, you know, skippers. Retired out there. Like, anyway, how about you in Berryhead Road? There was a dozen retired merchant seamen, like, you know, skippers, got their skipper's ticket. And
There's a lot of big houses along there now.
Yeah, some of them turned into apartments now.
Yeah.
But that's a
Yeah.
beautiful
Some
house.
nice big houses.
Yeah.
one of my uncles, he went to fishing for a while, but he was wise enough to go into the merchant service. And he was captain when he finished. He got his skipper's ticket.
Yeah, more money in that.
In the merchant service. I don't know what line he was on, but then when he retired, he came back and got a place out on the moors, farming.
Oh,
So
he went away from
he
us.
went, yeah, so he preferred the farm and the fishing. He must have. Yeah.
That's an interesting story.
But the men started it, like, you know, because, I mean, the women used to bring up the families mainly, didn't they? Because the men was to see,
Yeah.
if they was lucky, they went out Monday, if they were lucky, and able to stop out till Friday. Like, you know, and then for 3 months of the year, they'd be round land as well, like, you know. And I mean, the part that I used to like, the part I saw my father mostly, there always used to be a period, December's used to be gales, didn't it? December and January. And they'd be out and in, out and in, out and in. Perhaps every day they'd be out and in again. They'd go out and do a couple of holes and in again and make a week's work, perhaps, like, you know. But there'd be January, December, January and February as well, perhaps. But there's always a period, the end of February or March mainly, when you get an easterly blow. I mean, and it was dry. It's not like you get now. I mean, the pattern or weather pattern changed completely, perhaps because of the global warming. But there used to be that about 3 weeks when it used to be blow right down from Scandinavia, easterly, right in. And there was no way they could get to sea. There was no dough or anything like that. No. There was no dough for them in those days if they didn't or anything. How they survived, I do not know. I think they survived because after those 3 weeks, there was a shortage of fish here.
Yes.
And first
So the prices went up.
Made up for that. The first couple of trips afterwards, they were able to put their books straight, like, you know, bring it up to date. But my father would be home for those 3 weeks, and he was a placid man, my father. He never raised his voice, never remember saying an angry word to me anyway, like, you know. But he'd be like a bear with a sore head, like.
Yeah, because couldn't get to see.
You knew he won right, like, you know. But he would take us pictures sometimes. Where he got the money from, I don't know. Because he never had the money to, he wasn't earning it. But Mum would say, you come in pictures with us tonight, like, he'd take me as well. And perhaps the elder sister, like,
Now, did your mother look after the housekeeping monies?
Yeah.
Your father would give her the money.
Oh,
and
yeah,
she
because
would
he'd
look
have his stocker, see. They was crafty, because their money was, one was their settlement money. They used to have money set aside as well, didn't they? Their stock, what they called their stocker. All of you done all that, oh yeah. And you never knew how much stocker they had.
Now that's money in the boat.
Well, they used to. They never put crabs and that on the marketing.
Okay,
It was
yes.
sold, but that was a cruise.
Went into the cruise.
Stocker, yeah.
Stocker money.
Because he'd bring on a crab, like if he had, the crabs was enormous, a piggy crab. They wouldn't bring the biggest because you couldn't, you'd have to light the copper up to boil them. He knew exactly what sauce to bring, the biggest saucepan you had, like,
Yes.
So and he just about fit in there, a KD crab, like, They did very well, I think, on their stocker and that, and you knew when they done well, because you had a little bit more spending money, didn't you? But their settling money, like, well, that was running the house, like,
Yeah.
They managed, like, because 'twas hard times in the service, I think, like. They muddled through, they struggled through. My mother used to light the copper up at about 6, or my father used to before he went down. He used to get the copper going down
Instead of a morning.
Monday morning, because everybody in the town, Mondays was wash days.
That's it.
It would be all day Mondays, from 6 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock in the night was expected to say. Well, it was expected.
That's right.
Well,
Exactly
Mondays
the
was
same.
wash day.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday would be blinking ironing all day, was it, like, God almighty, yeah.
It's the old song, when it rain, go away, come on
Yeah,
again
Another
the day.
day, that's it.
And your food was the same as well, wasn't it? It was the same
Yeah.
staple diet, more or less, and you never got fed up with it.
Roast of the weekend.
Yeah,
That's right.
roast of
Cold
the
meat
weekend,
fry up
nice
Monday.
roast joint, yeah. Cold Mondays.
Cold
wasn't it,
Mondays.
Us was fish Tuesdays, fish Wednesdays. And there was no fridges in those days.
No.
Because you'd have outside safe, they called it.
That's right.
With
The
the
gauze on it.
Like God, in the summertime the flies was buzzing around there
Yeah.
all the time. Oh dear.
Yeah, we never very rarely heard of food poisoning.
No. Different world.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That's very good, Blake. Very
Well,
interesting.
if you don't mind me shooting off.
No, thank you very much for your time.
Excuse me. Well, my wife got a doctor's appointment at last week.
Oh, you must go.
I said I'll
Let's go
pick
straight
her up.
away.
And
Finish your
Running a
tea.
She got the car, so if I go up, I got time now to go up to the doctor's, and when we're finished, I'll come and lift on them.
That's how we do it.
Right.
So she's making her own way there. She's not waiting for you to pick her up or anything like
No,
that.
she got the car.
Good.
You know what? You can park in the car, park up there, because it'll be quiet and help her.
Well, thank you very much indeed. That was
Thank you. Have I been any help to you?
You have indeed. You have indeed, Blake. Good to
Thanks,
talk
Blake.
with you.
That was great.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah.
Cheers. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, bye, Blake. That's right, yeah.
One thing before we
And
start,
rubbish.
Blake, is it Blake Granville or Glanville?
Glanville.
Glanville.
Yeah.
Well, today it's the 23rd of May, 2002, and we're going to chat some more with Blake Glanville. Blake, you were mentioning a few minutes ago about your father and the lifeboat.
Yes. Well, like most trawlermen in those days, a lot of them joined the RNLI. Well, of course, if we were to call out during the day, most of them was out to sea.
Yeah.
If it had been fine weather, blowing a gale, they had plenty in. But they always managed to muster a crew anyway. There was always enough ashore to make up the crew, I'm sure there was. Perhaps on one or two occasions they went one short, perhaps, or two. But yeah, he served for a number of years. That was one thing that I didn't mention. And I brought along a photograph because I always remember that occasion. It's, I think I've mentioned it here before at our meetings, it's the English trader. She went to ground in a south-southeasterly gale at the entrance to the River Dart, full of grain she was. There's the photograph.
Okay. And what sort of boat was she?
Well, it's like a merchant ship, isn't it?
Merchant ship. What can you remember about that?
Well, it was a dreadful south-southeasterly. It was my birthday, that's how I remember it.
Okay.
On the 23rd of January, I'm not sure of the year, 37 was it, 36 maybe? But at the time it was a rather epic
Yes.
event. Like, you know.
Were any lives lost?
No, there was 52. There was a crew and passengers. There was a passenger cargo boat as well. Right? But there was 52 aboard.
That's
there
a lot.
wasn't a life lost. She ate the rocks apparently further out. You can see Kingsburg Castle here.
Yes.
Dartmouth Castle was a bit further out. She
Yes.
went to ground there because south-southeasterly comes right in the River Dart, doesn't it?
Mm.
And it was a real blow. But they got her into that position, further in the shallower water like. And by the time this photograph was taken, I think it had abated quite a bit.
Yeah, it went quite
South-easterly like.
Yes.
But what happened on that occasion, they did get the 52 persons ashore on the lifeboat, and they also had breeches buoy apparently. They got a breeches buoy
From the boat to the shore.
and rescued a few that way from the breeches buoy. The English trader, well, she was so badly damaged on the bows apparently that what they did, they cut her off the bow section
Mm-hmm.
and towed her stern first further into the River Dart by the railway crossing actually, and beached her there. And they repaired her there, and they built like a new boat out of her, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And she went to sea again anyway,
Mm-hmm.
but she got lost. The first gale of wind, she got lost.
She got lost again.
Afterwards.
Yeah.
Afterwards, yeah. The same thing happened, I think. She was badly damaged and split in two, I think. But that's the English trader. My father was on that there night. He went away, I think he got caught out about 8 o'clock in the evening. And we didn't see him again until the following day, like, you know, perhaps dinner on the following day. But he had a job to get out of him, like, you know. Being a boy, he was all excited to know he came back. What had happened, like, you know.
And you wouldn't say much?
But he was very cagey. You had to, later on, perhaps, a long time afterwards,
So it would come out.
he'd let things say what a night it was, like, you know, but we knew it was one of the bad nights, like, you know.
And what sort of boat lifeboat would they have had in those days?
Well, it was a George Shee, and she was a brand new, I think she had just been a year or so ago. The Prince of Wales came down. He was later king, wasn't he, for a time. He abdicated, Prince Edward. He was Prince of Wales then. He came down to launch her officially, like, you know. And over there, they brought her in alongside the wall over there, which is still the same now.
King's Quay?
Yeah, King's Quay, isn't it? That's right, over there. And the official party, that's where it took place. And all the officials came, of course, like, you know, councillors and from all over the area, like, you know. It was a lovely day because there was so many people, hundreds of people, all around the quayside, like, you know, they knew what was going on. And of course they wanted to get a glimpse of the prince as well, because in those days you didn't see royalty very often, did you?
Yeah.
You know? And that was a very you know, auspicious occasion that I remember, like, you know. And at the regatta too, all the kids was eager to get up a fair. Well, Friday night it was fireworks night, same as it is now, like, you know. And you could practically guarantee the weather in those days. Nowadays, it's a washout sometimes, isn't it? But
yes.
August time, it nearly always, the only rain you'd get in August in those days, you'd get a thunderstorm after a hot weather for
Really, but otherwise you could rely on the weather.
You could rely on the weather, yeah. We did. I mean, as boys, we used to go out for the day, like, you know, take a few sandwiches with us, out to Berryhead, wander around, all down around Showstone. That was before there was a little swimming pool out there. It was just the rocks then. Well, they built the Showstone swimming pool in the late 30s. So we used to enjoy August. It was school holidays, wasn't it? A month off from school there, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the regatta of the 1930s. Now, what sort of boats would have been racing in those days?
Well, it's just the trawlers, you know, like I said, the sloops and the mules. I think they used to race in two classes. There used to be a cup for the sloops, a cup for the mules, like, you know.
So there were enough boats left in the 1930s, sailing trawlers left?
Mid-30s, yeah, there was quite a nice regatta it was. You could see, and of course when you see all the sails out there, like you see the Vigilance and that out there now, like you see 30 or 40 of them right there.
Yes.
It was a lovely sight, wasn't it? Like, you know, far better sight than our trawler race now, really, isn't it? Like, you know, you see the big boats steaming around and that, but the excitement, I don't think, you know, not for us ashore anyway. Just the sailing was beautiful. And of course the J-class yachts as well. They used to be here. There was the Endeavour, when the Endeavour was built in the late 30s. Beautiful looking ship, she was painted royal blue. There was the Vilshida, there was the Astra. Astra was pale green, I think. Yeah. Top size, like, you know. But what a sight it was when they were when they had all their canvas up on it, like, you know.
Now, these are the ones with the mast 172 feet high, wasn't it, on the
Yeah, they were
just 20 feet short of the height of Berryhead.
Lovely looking yachts.
Fantastic.
When they were racing and a breeze like today, like, you know, oh, what a wonderful sight. But the trawlers marking, you can see all the markings in the bay. But the J-class yachts used to race out the big rock and then you lose them beyond Berryhead.
They go further out.
They'd go further out. And then after an hour or so, you see them coming back to pick up the breakwater mark again, like, you know. And they'd probably go around 3 times as well.
Yes.
Well, a wonderful sight. And of course there was a lot of nice steam yachts in as well during the regatta.
And they came in to watch?
Yeah, you know, some
spectators.
Yeah, well, like a man you mentioned before, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There were some lovely steam yachts in those days, weren't there? Like, you know. So I thought that was a wonderful sight. But of course, regatta time, like I said, being boys, Friday night's firework night. Everybody wanted to see the farm show of fireworks. Saturday nights was the night that we went up on the fair as a family, usually, like, you know. And strangely enough, you'd go to Mum and Dad, and perhaps my sisters, because I had 2 stepsisters and 4 sisters I was brought up with. So I was brought up with lovely sisters, all of them, right, you know. My mum was her second marriage, like, you know. She was married before, but her first marriage split up, and my stepsisters came and lived with us, like, you know. 2 stepbrothers stopped at Plymouth where she was married. So I was brought up with 4 lovely sisters, like.
Yeah.
2 stepsisters, 4 sisters, 2 stepsisters, 6 of them.
6
I'm
spoiled.
the only boy.
You
So
were
you can
spoiled.
imagine how spoiled I was. I liked it, I liked it. I loved it. Never had an angry word with any of them, I think. Like, you know.
So you'd all go up to the fair on the Saturday
Most
night?
of us, but anyway, perhaps the elder one, the elder stepsisters, they had boyfriends, like,
Yeah.
by that time, but they were a bit older than me, like, you know. But there'd be 2 or 3 of us, like perhaps 2 sisters, go to the fair. But the regatta time, I don't know, it's not like it now. There's a lot of Brixton people that lived away. Their work took them away, didn't they? There's a lot that worked at Devonport Dockyard.
Yes.
Brixton people, like, you know, born and bred here, over to Wales even. But regatta time, they all seem to come back more than Christmas time, like, you know. They made a point of coming back to Brixton regatta time, you know,
Yeah.
year after year. You get up on the fair Saturday night, come on, Dad. They'd be yapping with them, they'd be, oh, I haven't seen you for years, like, you know, shake hands. And then they'd go on. All I was into is was getting on the penny on the mat, which was a penny in those days. Like, you know.
Yeah, we'll talk about that, but what actually, what was there?
Well,
What's a penny on the mat?
Oh,
Well, there was the roundabout things like, you know,
Yes.
the Noah's Ark, which was the fastest thing in those days. You had little horses and that to sit on, didn't you? But that thing really was the Noah's Ark. Like, you had to be a bit older before they let you
That you're on there,
ride
yes.
that one, like,
Yes.
you know. But there was always the penny on the mat, that was an attraction. Sideshows as well. My dad always liked to go in and see the boxing. There was always a boxing booth there. Got to go in there. Well, being a boy, I didn't go much on that. Like, I would have sooner be on the swinging in the roundabouts. But and then they didn't have the big wheel. That came years after, didn't it? But they had a fair sized one with swing seats.
Yes.
I remember that one.
Yes.
So you ventured up on that one, like, you know. The side shows was quite interesting, like, you know. Always try to win a coconut, didn't he? Like, you know, very shy and that. Come on with half a dozen coconuts and that, you know. But all Brixton people made a real occasion. But they'd be up there yapping half the time. You know, they didn't see anybody for 6 months or 12 months. And then they'd enjoy themselves talking to old mates, like, you know, and that.
Yeah.
And Mum just the same, talking to somebody that are in the same for years, like, you know. But eventually, the ferry used to go on till midnight anyway. And we did enjoy ourselves in the end anyway. Like, he used to give me a few coppers, like, you know, and say, now look, don't go away. If you can't pick us up, we'll be over by underneath the penny on the mat. That was a marker on it, like, you know. So if you got lost on the fairground, you go back until you picked up your parents again, like, you know.
Yeah.
Now, what's this penny on the mat?
Oh, it's only it's a cork mat they used to give me, and it was built like a windmill.
That's like the helter
Like
skelter.
helter
The helter skelter, that's right. I used to call it penny on the
Penny on the
mat.
mat.
You paid a penny, they give you a mat. You went up inside, like, you know.
And you sat down and was drowned.
Then you come, like, you know, and finish up half a dozen on top of one another.
Yes, yes.
Down the bottom, like, you know. That was one thing, like, you know. The sideshows was always very interesting, yeah. So really, that brought us up then until
So Glanville was a time when
everybody.
people came back to Brixton.
That's
Yes.
right, yeah. Yeah. Anybody that lived away, they made a point, I think, of they wanted to anyway,
Yeah.
you know, rather than Christmas, really, I think. They the food may have come back at Christmas time, like, you know.
They particularly came back
to
in
see
the summertime.
see their families on there as well. But I think the regatta time was a time that they made a point of getting back to the sailing. I think there's a sailing that attracted them back here anyway, like, you know, the sailing and that. So really, it was a nice time of the year, regatta time here then.
Tell us about these J4 yachts that were there. Who owned them?
I think they were crewed by about 40. They had a
Big crew.
a big crew aboard there to sail it.
So local men, local boys would be
Some of them
involved,
did,
some
yes,
would be, yes.
no, but there was one or two I know that went from sailing to yachtsmen, and one or two of the local men did crew on the J-class yachts. But I think mostly they came around from the Isle of Wight area, the Solent,
Yes.
you know, the cruise.
Yes.
Because that's where they were mainly based winter time, wasn't it? Like,
They
it was
went up there.
the J-class yachts. And they used to come around different parts of the coast for their sailing, like, you know. But it was a real, the Endeavour, she went in 19, that was just before the war. I think she went across to America, didn't she? To race for the Cup.
America's Cup.
The
Yeah.
America's Cup, didn't she? And what was the boat that the Americans had then? The Rainbow, I think it was. The Rainbow. And the Rainbow trounced us every time, didn't they? But they're very disappointed, yeah, because we thought we had the best, didn't we? But you couldn't beat the Yanks, not for years and years. They held that cup, didn't they, for about 100 odd years, yeah, the Americans, before anyone took it over. But that was there was and then there was the Velshida, which we all had our favourite boats, like, you know, as boys. I haven't done that yet. Today I'm going to have the Shamrock. My boat's the Shamrock today, like. She's getting trounced on today, like, you know. There was the Velshida, the Astra, one or two others that slips me mind, but it was a wonderful sight, yeah, it truly was.
I seem to remember Dick Pocock saying that his father skippered the Shamrock.
He may have,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, he did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he
Because I
skippered the
think his
Shamrock
father
races.
went yachting
Yeah.
after he finished. I think they were the ones that could go yachting.
Yeah.
Because they did all their lovely season, didn't they? Sailing, racing everywhere, around the country, around the coast, everywhere. And then in the winter time they'd be home and they'd have a retainer, didn't they?
Did they?
I think there was a skeleton crew employed during the winter months, but then the rest of them, if they wanted them the following summer, they had to pay them a nice retainer, to retain their service.
Yes, or they might have gone to somebody else's shop.
They'd gone somewhere else, weren't they?
Yeah, that's a good deal.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? So really, it was a nice life, wasn't it, for some of them, and a lot of them. There was still quite a few yachts. There was one yacht in particular called the Bloodern. I remember that one because she used to race the Fastnet race. You know the Fastnet race? I don't know whether they still run it, right, do they?
Yeah.
But the Bloodern, she won it several times. She did, and she was crewed by all local men. In fact, one of my uncles on my mother's side, Uncle Gilbert, he was skipper of her for a number of years, I know, and they won the Fastnet. They won the Fastnet race. And there was a red yacht, whatever was he called again? Sam Bully will tell you, because his father raced her, I'm sure. You know Sam?
Yeah. Tuesday.
Whatever was she called again now? This big red yacht. She always raced the Fastnet race, and they were always in and out of here, summertime, between their races. So really, it was a wonderful sight, right? Summertime here in those days. You used to see really some nice craft here,
And where would they lay? I mean, inside the anchor or moorings inside the breakwater?
No, they wouldn't be inside. All the moorings was took up inside, but they'd be just from the end of the breakwater out to Fishcombe Point across there. They'd be laid there. And
So they'd anchor?
Yeah, they'd be anchored there,
That must be quite a sight.
It was a
I
lovely
mean,
sight.
how many would there have been?
Well, I think there was about 6 J-class yachts, maybe 7. I wish I could remember the names.
But that sort of number, yes.
Like I say, I can remember.
You remember most of the names?
Well, the Endeavour, Bill Sheeda, Astra.
Right. Oh, Rainbow was the American one.
There was one of them, I know, she was one of the first ones with a steel mast. And she was racing up Teignmouth Regatta. They used to leave here, and the next regatta was Babbicombe, Torquay and Teignmouth. And it was blowing that day. And she got dismasted. She lost her mainsail,
Yeah.
And of course they packed in the racing because it was.
Not much point in carrying on if you've lost your mast.
It came on a real blow, it did
Oh, they cancelled all the race.
Yeah, I think the race.
They abandoned the race.
Yeah, they abandoned the
I
races,
see. Yes.
because it was real southwester. They came in, I suppose, pretty strong, So that brought us up to the war years again, didn't it? After that, 1939, all that finished, all that fun.
Yes, and that was just about the end of it. And,
When the war came along,
Yeah, that was it.
they finished all that sort of thing, didn't it? For a number of years, and it was never the same.
J-class was never resurrected, was it?
Not after,
After
they never
the war?
came here.
Never came back.
Never came here. In fact, I think it was years afterwards, one of them was renovated, wasn't it? Someone bought her, and that was up Cows, I think, and they renovated her up there, and she sailed again. I rather think that was the Astra. Sailed for a number of years then afterwards, because there was never a race for the
No, that was one of them.
No.
Didn't they last year have a race with a few of them? Was it last year off the Needles? Around the Isle of Wight and off the
Did it?
Needles. I seem to remember seeing something in the traditional book magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I seem to remember something in the book there.
Well, it'd been nice if there's still a few around like that, Because, but of course, they cost so much to keep them going now, I should imagine.
Yes.
It's cost a fortune. You'd have to be well endowed, wouldn't you, to be able to run a yacht like that nowadays.
I think only companies would do it these days.
Yeah.
Corporate
That's
sponsorship.
right, Yeah. But I think, was it the Australians that took the
Australians took the Americans.
Yes, took the Americans Cup,
Yeah.
yeah, when they raced from Australia.
That's
That
it.
was from Perth, Western Australia.
That's
They were all based there.
Alan Bond in that game.
That's right, that's right. Yeah, he financed all that, didn't he? Like in Australia, and the Australians won it. I think that was the first time they lost a cup for
That's it.
a long, long time, wasn't it? The Yanks. And then they regained it again afterwards, didn't they?
Yeah,
They still got it now, I should
yeah,
imagine.
they still got it.
Yeah. And that's the J-class shots. Wonderful sight.
What do you remember of the war years and the fishing and the sailing here? And during the
Well,
war years?
Well, it was a
Young
good
man
time,
then.
good time because we met new friends really, like the Belgians.
Mhm.
I mean, they used to keep themselves to themselves, but there was a lot of Brixton girls teamed up with Belgian fellas and eventually married them and went back to Ostend.
Oh, did
And
they?
had their, oh yeah, several Brixton girls, yeah. Yeah, but I met some of the Belgian fellas. We used to run the soccer team, you know, kick around like. But we didn't have any organised team because we didn't have a league, no proper leagues then, right, you know. But we used to play, the Navy had a school of divers here.
Okay.
And they were keen on most of a lot of them came from, they were Geordies, the northeast, all over the country as well, some of them. But there was quite a few. Ted Boytail, he came here, he married a Brixton girl and stopped here after he'd done his service.
Yeah.
Or-
Where was the diving school? Where was it based?
It was a base out Berry Head, wasn't it? Somewhere. I think it was, I forget now exactly where they were, but it was some of the Coast Guard houses and that. But it was around where the lifeboat station is.
Wasn't the orphanage or somewhere like that?
Yeah, perhaps the orphanage as well. I think they were in there as
Might have
well.
requisitioned that during the war.
Yeah, I think so. I think perhaps they used that as well, like, you know. Of course, they used to go off, didn't they, and do their diving around Berry Head, didn't they? And then in deeper water as well, didn't they? We didn't know anything about that.
No.
Because they couldn't talk about it, could they?
That was all secret.
It was all secret. Yeah. But when we could always get a team. We had our local side going, right, you know, and if we didn't have anybody to play of a Saturday afternoon, we were allowed to play at the rugby club. That was sacrilege, that was, to play soccer.
That's
Like
right.
the Brixton Rugby Club. But during the war years, there wasn't no rugby posts there. It was soccer posts, all the war years.
So they weren't playing rugby? They didn't?
No, they didn't.
No.
They didn't know it. They couldn't organise it like that.
No.
There were still youngsters, I suppose, that played because the school I went to, I left school then, but that was the Church of England National School. It was rugby school. You couldn't play nothing else. You couldn't play soccer. You were brought up to play rugby up there, right? You know, that was a sport. Cricket in the summer, rugby in the winter months, like, you know. But Saturday afternoon, we could nearly always get a game, and these here Hatlows, right, you know, they were some hard cases, they were. we met on match here very often, like, you know, because they came and they went, like, you know.
Yes, so they're on courses,
And-
presumably.
And
Yes.
some of them that we played against, they were on professional books.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They were good footballers then?
Oh, yeah, some of them were. They're still youngsters, like, you
Yes,
know,
yes.
only in their early 20s, 19 and 20. But they had come from home. There was one chap there called Jimmy Peel. He was a beautiful ball player. You know, it was worth playing against him just to learn he was on Manchester City's books. A dogger here in the Navy, like, you know. Always remember that fella. Jimmy Peel, yeah, Manchester City book, and the number of them was as well. I remember one, Geordie, he was on Sunderland's books, like, you know, as a young professional player, like. So we came across some good stars. They trounced us very often.
I was going to say, they must be quite good games.
So we always give them a good game, and they always came back for more anyway.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the time our kick-off was 2:30 usually up a rugby field. We were up at 1 o'clock, 1:30, getting ready for them, like, you know. But they didn't have nothing to do Saturday mornings, and they was all Saturday. But first of all, they used to go to the boat, didn't them?
Ah, so there was
And they'd have a few bevies
did
before
oil
they
by the
come,
time
like,
they
you know.
arrived.
And then they'd come up there and play us and sweat it out, like, you know.
Now, how come a Brixham team could be put together? Because unless you were all very young,
Yeah.
you ought to have been off in the forces as well.
Oh, we were only 16, 17.
You must have been
We're
younger
in the early
than they
years, yeah.
were.
In 1940, what was I was only 14 then, just
14, yes.
coming up 15.
Yes.
But I was a pretty good musical player in those days.
Yeah.
But our captain was a star at the Jimmy Cole. He organised, or he was captain or captain, and he organised all the local players. But most of them came from Furdham School.
Yeah.
They'd left school, of course.
But that's a soccer school.
Well, that was the soccer school, and they used to play the soccer school, Homelands in Torquay. Chelsea, they always used to have good soccer sides, but they used to play for a cup. I think the cup, what was the cup called again now? The Torbay Cup anyway. But 9 times out of 10, Furdham School would win it, like, you know. They'd win the area all around here, like, you know. Because that schools used to run that competition for the schoolboys, like, you know. One school playing another during the winter months, which was very, very good. But after the war, like, you know, Jim, we got a team together, like, you know. And although most of them came from Furdham School, and one or two others used to play. But then, when the Belgian lads came here, a few of them, Morris Goodman was one, he started playing soccer as well when he came here first, like, you know. And one, 2 or 3, I forget their names now, but they was good enough to
They joined in.
join in,
Yeah,
like, you know.
yeah.
And there was one short, they was always there, like, you know. So sometimes we'd have 2 or 3 Belgian players in the team as well, like, you know. And we made very good friends. And my wife, anyway, eventually when I met her and married her, bless her heart, she used to work with a young Belgian girl. It was amazing how they picked up English so quickly when being young.
Yeah.
She used to work in Woolworths with my wife, and they became very staunch friends, like, you know. They worked together perhaps 4 years, the war years at Woolworths up here, in the same place as this now. And of course, when that war eventually finished, most of them was off, like, you know, back to Ostend, like, you know, and carry on their business back home. But there was still, I think, when a lot that married here, and that, they stopped here as well. And well, Morris married a Brixham girl, John Yallin's sister, like, you know.
So,
John's sister, Phyllis, he stopped here. He run his business, and his son still runs his business now in the lane there, doesn't he? Like,
Yeah.
you know, Brixham, what do they, what's the
building.
yeah, the welding company, in it, like, you know. And I think there was as many as several hundred left here. You know,
Really, as many as that?
stopped
Yes.
here. Yeah, Albert, Albert
Awesome.
came here,
Yes,
just the same.
yes.
Like,
Marcel Gallon.
Albert, he's lovely. Marcel that died recently, like, you know. But there was, hundreds really, like, you know. Eventually, of course, up to now, one after the other, like we all do. Pass on,
Yeah.
don't we, like, you know.
And there was the man Shears, Manny Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was another one, Shears.
Yeah.
Albert was his name? Albert Shears? Something like that, anyway.
Well, there was 2 brothers too. It's strange, really, because I think one's still living. 2 brothers. They were both twin brothers, and they went into the Navy, but they met the 2 Belgian girls, and they were twin sisters, and they both married. So that was and stopped here after the war, like, you know.
Yes.
And lived in Brixham after the war. So that was rather interesting, like, you know, wasn't it? And as I was saying, though, that the friend that my wife, well, she was a little bit younger than my wife, but they were very close. They were, because they worked together, and my wife more or less chewed up and looked after her, and they became very firm friends. But after the war, when she went back to Ostend with her family, her mum and dad, her father used to be a shipwright. He used to work here on one of them. I think he worked for the chappie, the Chandlers up here, but he made spars. I know that was one of his jobs.
Mhm.
When they made the spars, like, you know, he used to be pretty good on the ads and that, like, you know. But he was a shipwright by trade. But he went back to Ostend, and we thought that was
That's your it.
it, like, you know. But we had a letter soon afterwards, and we were invited over to Ostend. But being a young family then, like, you know, you had to save up a bit before you could manage a holiday in Ostend. But eventually, the fella that are married, a Belgian, he was in Ostend all the war years. She only met him when she went back after the war years here. And we were invited over to the wedding. You know, sadly we couldn't make it. But we were invited over afterwards, and after a number of years, we did make. And by that time, we had our young family. We had I got 2 boys, and we had a lovely daughter as well. Like between the 2 boys, like, you know, we were blessed. But we went across there and had a wonderful holiday with them.
Good. So you kept in touch. Yeah.
Lovely Ostend, lovely place, and I still love it now. I've been back there so many times since, but I do like Ostend.
Are you still in touch with them?
Well, sadly, they both passed away, and they were a bit younger than us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was a wonderful guy. He was a trawlerman in Ostend, fishing. My father lived on the quay. My parents then were Pelosi's fishing ice cream shop is now, or used to be.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Shipmates
the shipmates now.
Yeah.
After that was my mum and father's cottage. And we lived with my mum and father soon after we got married for a while until we got our own place. One winter time there was a knock on the door. Bang, bang, bang. I goes out to open the door, and this here fella, I've never seen him before, like, you know, he's about 6 foot he was, Roger. Roger, Gabby's husband. He was skipper of a Belgian boat, was blowing the hills down then. My father was in as well. Well, he couldn't speak a lot of English. So it was a little bit tricky. I couldn't speak any Flemish. Not a word of it, like, you know. But he could get by a little bit, like, you know, but I couldn't understand it because of the mod dialect as well, I suppose. But Dad came out and he came in, met the family, met my mum, Stella. That was the first time I met him, my wife, Stella as well. And Dad said, what about going up to ease things, like, you know, Roger, do you like a drink? Oh yes, he was all for that. So Dad went over we went over his favourite pub with Rod and Sunlight, you know.
Yeah.
Oscars, that comes here Tuesdays at over.
Yeah.
His father used to keep it then, you know.
Okay.
Len Edwards,
Yeah.
captain. So we went up there and spent a very pleasant hour or so, you know, until 10 o'clock, which was 10 o'clock closing time in those days, wasn't it, like, you know. I'll see you again. Yeah, that was meeting him, it was. So, as I say, afterwards we were invited over and eventually made it.
That's how you made it, yes.
And then, of course, we always said, if you ever want to come, we've got a place over Ormby then, like, you know. We rented a place, and if you ever want to come, strangely enough, they had the same. They were blessed with 2 boys, 2 sons and a daughter. Yeah, and all about the same age.
It worked out well then.
Yeah. So, and we remained friends until, well, 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah, yes.
But sadly, she had dreaded cancer, Gabby, and we lost her. But we were over there. We went over when she was very ill, just, you know, to say goodbye, really, like, you know. But he was never the same fellow afterwards. We had a holiday in Ostend, and we looked him up, like, you know. And he had a flat right on the seafront overlooking the marina in those days. But he wasn't the same fellow that we knew, like, you know. And strangely enough, it wasn't long before he joined his wife, like, passed away. Very sad, like, you know.
No,
it's a part.
It's part of life.
a part of my life. We often talk about him, like, you
Yeah.
know, the times, the wonderful times we had, like, 'cause he was a real character. He used to tell us, like, you know, about, they were occupied by the Germans, and he was a bit of a character on the mouth organ and singing, and he used to sing songs in German. He could speak German, he could speak his own language, he could speak French. It took me a while before he mastered it, but eventually he did.
Yes.
And the only thing he said he couldn't get hold of, because we went on holiday with him a couple of times before he got so ill, was Spanish. We met him, we had 2 holidays with him. He would never fly, but we had to fly. Well, he didn't have to, but we did. We flew from Bristol over to Benidorm, and we met him over there. Roger would never fly. He said, never get me up there, mate, never get me up there. But they used to be able to catch a coach down from Ostend, through France, down through, you know, down through.
Yes.
And we had some wonderful times.
Isn't that great?
A couple of opposites over there, Roger and Carrie, but there we kept in touch, and we still keep in touch with
their children.
With their children, yeah. Very
That's
often hear
good.
from them, like, you know.
That's nice.
Anytime,
Good.
yeah.
Let me take you back to your own childhood for a moment, because we've not focused on that.
Well,
We're focused on what was happening to your family and your father whilst you were a child. Tell us about your school days. What can you remember about your school days?
going back to a very strange, how far you can go back. My grandfather, when I was 3 years old, this was 1929. The first 3 years of my life, we lived with my grandparents. And my grandfather, he used to keep the Crown and Anchor. And his twin brother used to keep the Rose and Sun, where when Oscar's father used to.
Yes.
I can remember that pub, you know. Strange, and I was only about 3 years old. I used to come down weekends perhaps as well, like, you know. But living there, they used to put me to bed, you know. And I can hated it. Our bedroom was up on the top floor. I had an older sister as well.
Yeah.
But you'd hear the rats.
Yeah.
They'd be like racehorses, they would. Used to scare,
Across the rafters.
used to scare at me that they used to run between the rafters, like, you know, scuttle along. And I used to shout on top of the stairs, and eventually nobody heard me. They was busy downstairs, so I'd go down over. There I would be downstairs. And then they perched me, they used to tell me that they'd perched me on the corner of the bar for a little while, like, you know, until I was really tired. Took me back eventually. I must have went to sleep eventually, of course, like, you know. But I can still remember that.
And the rats.
And then by the time I was 12, school age, there wasn't no nursery school, was there, like there is nowadays.
No.
Your school days started at 5 years old. Well, by that time I lived up. My grandfather had died, and the pub was in his name. Nowadays, a lot of ladies take over the license, don't they? But in those days,
That wasn't done.
It wasn't done.
No.
So we had to get out. So my grandmother was able to buy 12 rock Paris hoppers, that where I told you,
Yes.
where I pointed it.
Yes, before, yes.
And my mum cared for my grandmother, and we had a home, you know. So that's where, from the time of. But when I went to school, 5 years old, the school then, the primary school used to start off. I hated going to school. Remember that? It was down St. Peter's Hill, you know.
Yeah, we went that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
There
Yes,
used to
it's
be a
called
school
there.
there, yes.
Still there.
Where's St. Peter's Church?
Just below the church.
Just below there.
Yes. And why did you hate it?
Well, I want, some boys take it right away, don't they? But I was
You
a very,
didn't
I was
take
not
to
a
it.
very nervous lad.
Ah.
Really, I was a bit more, perhaps, nervous temperament than some boys who take it in. Some boys took it in their stride, didn't it? But my sister, my elder sister, Lillian, she was in, I was started in the lower class. She was one up from me, like, you know. But I remember one day anyway, the playtime, wasn't it, for in the afternoon. I could have only been 5 years old. I got fed up with this. I don't live far from home. So I shot out that door and up over there when I was back home.
Yeah,
Of course.
yes, so no time.
They missed me, but what a foolish thing to do.
What did they do?
They'll come up, they found out eventually. My elder sister, they said, you better try to find out where he is. She went up, my aunties that lived up Mount Pleasant Estate, just around the corner. I wasn't there. So she went back home. I was home one night with my grandmother, wait till you get to school in the morning. You for it. She went back and told them that I was all right,
Yeah.
So I had to face the following day, didn't I? Going to school again.
What happened?
Well, they were very good, really, because the teacher had a word. She was lovely. She had a word with me, motherly talk, and said, quite all right. But if you feel, nervous or anything, don't be afraid to have a word with me. And you can go in with your sister. Your sister will come in here for a little while, That didn't happen, thankfully.
No, you were all right after that, yes.
After a while.
You straightened out.
So I was there for 2 years, and then you go to the higher school,
Yes.
which was the Church of England School, the National Boys' School,
Yes.
which some of the orphanage boys used to come up to that school as well. When there was the orphan home going, and there I gradually grew up, didn't I, up there in that school, from 7 years old until I was 14 years
Yeah.
old.
Which subjects did you like best?
I liked geography, and I did care for mental arithmetic. I didn't
Really?
know I was never brilliant, because, but I always held me own. I was in the top 6 from the 7-year-old up to 14 and come 12 years old then. 12 years old, if you had a good record, school record, the top 6 was you could go to grammar school, but you had to go to pass the examination.
Yes, yes.
Anyway, I was entitled to have a go at it. And then I was a bag of nerves, I can remember it. And it was Saturday morning. Out of school hours, you had to go on a Saturday, they'd take you into Torquay Grammar School, Saturday morning, and you had to sit this exam out of your own environment. Honestly, I knew I would fail when the exam finished, because it was time for a start, wasn't it? You had half an hour on this, 20 minutes on the other,
You didn't
Now,
finish?
for a start, I'll never do that in 20 minutes, I wasn't relaxed enough, I wasn't settled enough.
No.
Anyway, out of the 6 of us, I was the only one that failed.
Well, happens.
My headmaster said, the headmaster was George James, he was called. He run the orphanage after he retired from his schooling days. He was headmaster at National Boys, all my school days up there. He called me in his office, he dressed me down, he said, I'm most disappointed. He said, of 6 that went, he said, you was the last one I thought. So there it was. But do you know, if I could have sat that exam the week after in my own school,
You'd have been all right.
I would have been all right.
It was nerves again.
Isn't that strange, yeah. But anyway, in those days, you didn't trouble too much whether you went to grammar school
No.
or whether you did nothing anyway. Some of the lads, they carved out fine careers, didn't they? I remember Spencer Mill, he went to Torquay Grammar. Les Rackley was doing very well because they lived close to one another. Both Les went to grammar school as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
They passed their exams and they went boarding school, which wasn't such high education as we had, or I used to say so, but they did. A lot of them went, and Spencer finished up a Spitfire pilot.
Really?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was one of the few. He was,
Yeah.
Yeah, he did his training in Canada, which was a very proud thing to have a local lad Spitfire pilot, wasn't it, in those days, during the war years, yeah. Always remember during the war years, they used to, outside the town hall, they stuck up, every town it was expected to raise enough money.
Oh yes,
to
like
buy
a
Spitfire.
target thing.
Yeah, Target, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This thing was put there early in 1940, I think. £4,000 you had to raise.
Yes. It would be like a big thermometer.
That's right.
Moved
That's
up.
what it was, wasn't it? The temperature kept And it was years before that. I don't know whether they put, I wonder what they done with the money in the end, because they never had enough to buy a Spitfire. I remember that, yeah, standing them off.
Talking about the war, Blake, what can you remember of the war? Because you would have been then, what sort of age during
Well,
the Second World
from
War?
14 up to 18 years old, I was down that shipyard.
Yes.
I took my medical, as soon as I was 18, January
Yes.
1944, I thought, oh yeah, no, he was lovely, he didn't, because you never knew how long the war was going to last.
Right.
Then really, didn't he? But 18, although I loved my work down there, you had that bit of fire in it,
Yeah,
didn't
you were off.
that you wanted to be off.
But before that, for the period 14
Well,
to 18,
like I say-
what was going on?
Well, there was always something going on because there was so many building ships here, like, you know, and they used to go out for a couple of days and back again, and the fishing picked up here, like, you know, and you met friends as well, Belgian friends that, you know.
What about the blackout and
Oh yeah, well,
and air raids?
oh yeah, well, we used to still, every evening, like, you know, in those days, like, you know, we still come down to town, our own little clique, like, you know,
Yeah.
your own few friends, like, you know.
Yeah.
Meet up Bolton Cross, you can't miss yourself up there, can you? Even if there is a blackout, like, you know, everybody knew where Bolton Cross was, yeah. I met my lovely wife there on a Friday night. if I'll tell you this though, because they had just, I was with my cousin, we always kept together, me and my cousin. That was my Uncle Blake that I was named after. His son was the same age as me, went to the same school, national, was in the same class, and we always more or less stuck together, like, you know. And he was friendly, we were about 16, like 17, he was friendly with a young lady, like, you know, and they went to Congregational Church. And one Friday evening during the blackout, it was just gone 9 o'clock, thinking about making our way home. And his girlfriend came along, and there was another lovely young lady with her, like, you know, so
Yeah.
that was my dear wife now, like.
Yeah.
So we walked her out, we walked her home, like, they both lived up Fairfield. My wife lived Nelson Road, and his wife lived over the, what's the terrace called, North Boundary Road, like, over there. And we met afterwards, so back in, well, I made a date for Sunday afternoon, because I couldn't see what this young lady was like. I thought she looked very nice.
Couldn't see in the dark.
I made a date for Sunday afternoon, and I couldn't wait till somebody came along, you know, to see what. But I wasn't disappointed. In fact, she was one of four lovely sisters. She had 3 sisters besides.
Yeah.
Her elder sister Joy was going then with John Yalla,
Yeah.
was organist at the congregational then, didn't he? And
Yeah.
he used to. So Joy was the elder sister. John eventually married Joy, the elder sister. Then my wife was the third one, lucky number 3. But Eileen, the second one, she married a local lad as well. I knew him during the war, but he was in the Navy. Met up after the war, and he started a business, Sydenham and Bond. They did well on television, like, he had a good business.
Oh yeah.
Going that, so married local lads, another local lad, like, you know, and eventually me and my wife married, like, you know.
A church played a big part in
Congregational,
Congregational Church.
all,
yes,
all connected with congregational.
Mhm.
Her younger sister, Evelyn, she was a little bit younger, but she married a stranger, she did.
What do you mean by a stranger?
Well, he came from Kingsworth.
Oh,
Morris Ashton. Everyone knew it. I don't know how they actually met, but or where they met or when. But
as long as it's not in the Bixham Congregational Church.
Church,
They're
oh,
a
yeah.
real stranger, yeah.
Yeah, and well, I don't know whether Morris was a Dartmouth lad, but his father used to be on the railway, and he was on a hire ferry. They had a railway house there. They lived in that house, and his father was on the level crossing there.
Oh yes,
He run
yes,
that, like,
yes.
for a number of years. Signalman, wasn't it? Like,
Yeah,
they
signalman,
did
yes,
signal
important
box as
job.
well, like.
Yeah.
So how they met, I don't know, but they met up, and like I say, a total stranger. But
Yes.
he's
All-
not.
all-
Like,
all the
I had a
5
word
miles.
with. I had a word with him this morning, actually. Like, you know.
All at 5 miles away.
Yeah,
No.
and that there, like, you know, and luckily, after 50 years, like, you know, we've had some wonderful times.
Yeah, it's good.
And
The amazing thing, Blake, and just to interject you in a moment, is these sisters have stayed together and they do
Yeah.
things together even today, don't they?
Yeah.
After all these years,
Oh.
they still do things together. They come down here on Thursday
Yeah.
mornings together, you know, and other
Yeah.
things. It's amazing.
4 sisters. And that, I mean, there wasn't very many families then that you'd have no brothers, just the 4 sisters, like, you know. A lot of families had 4 sisters, but brothers
Brothers
in
as well,
between,
yes,
and all
yes.
mixed up, wasn't it? Yeah,
This is just
they
4
were
brothers.
very well known, like, because they were a Brixham family. Truss was my wife's maiden name, and they were connected with trolling, but her father was a shipwright. So instead of sailing the ships, he built them.
You built them, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, and his family was connected. They were the younger generation went to sea when the Beamers came here, but whether it was his cousins and that was, they used to buy and sell, buy fish and sell fish, like connected with the fishing industry, all the Truss family, like, you know, one way or another. But like I say, he was. In fact, when the trawling died off, when they won building, the visitors was the last boat built here, wasn't they?
Does anybody want sugar?
Not for
No,
me, thank you.
nobody. No,
Okay.
that's lovely.
Thank you very much.
That's
Thank you
right.
very much.
Thank you.
Isn't that nice, eh?
Well, you need to wet your whistle at this stage.
Yeah.
But shipbuilding, of course, in those days, this is the days of your wife's father, the wife's family.
Yeah.
Shipbuilding was a big
Oh,
business
yeah.
in Brixton.
Yeah.
There was 7 or 8
Yeah.
shipyards
Yes.
and
yes,
lots
right, yeah.
lots of work for
Yeah.
shipwrights.
Yes, yeah,
It
yeah.
was a major feature. Plus, I mean, they were building significant numbers of trawlers.
And after the trawlers, they finished building the trawlers, there was a number of yachts that they built out there as well, wasn't there?
yes.
And one in particular they built, I think she was launched in 1938 perhaps. She was called the Cachalot. She was a beautiful woman. She was square rigged, she had sails but an engine as well, like, you know.
Mhm.
She was kept rigged like a
Yes.
trawler.
Yes.
Beautiful yacht though. About the same size, perhaps a bit bigger than the trawler's layout. But it was a big occasion.
But this is
that
a
was.
private yacht.
A private yacht.
Yeah.
Colonel Bevington, there was a history about him, wasn't there? Because he sailed the yacht for a while, but when the war came along, the yacht was commandeered,
Yeah.
did war service of some sort,
Oh.
and he was still able to run the yacht. He was armed.
As part of his
In fact, he
war
lost his
service.
life aboard there.
Yeah.
Because they were in the channel apparently one day, and the Messerschmitt strapped him, and he got killed. Colonel Bevington, I'm sure he was, the owner of the channel. So actually, the yacht
That's quite a story there.
came to Saturday, but between that, in perhaps 1938, a local man, Bill Coleman, he was skipper of her, and one of his sons was one of the crew, Frank, until he got called up, and they took a cachalot to Africa, and they done a lot of sailing in different parts around Africa, like, you know, South Africa. Where exactly, I don't know, but I remember they had to come back after the war had started. They brought the cachalot back here, and he brought a pet back with him. He was one of my mates, Bill Coleman, and the pet was a monkey. They were able to bring a monkey back. This here blooming monkey, yeah. They did the early in Berryhead Road then. But of course, like I say, the war came along and they took it for some reason, or I don't know what work the yacht was doing. Sadly, Colonel lost his life aboard her. I'm pretty sure that there's truth, like, you know.
Can you remember, talking the war for a moment still, when you were a lad, teenager,
Yeah.
before you called up, before you joined up? Can you remember any air raids?
Oh God, yeah.
What happened?
Well, the first incident that I ever remember was probably 1940. It was. You had the air raid sirens here, didn't he? They used to run them every once a week, didn't they? At a certain time, you knew that it was going. It was the all clear signal, just to see the things was working right.
All
wasn't it?
clear went ooh, level.
Yeah,
The
level,
other one went up and down.
up and down,
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, one was based, I know, where the, used to be the Parkham Wood Hotel, like, you know. And
Okay.
if you were walking
Right
past,
uptown.
in the,
Where the big flats are.
Where the big flats are now,
there's
yes,
flats
where the
there,
Parkham
yeah.
Hotel is,
That
yes.
used to be the Parkham Wood Hotel.
Yes.
Yeah. During the war, it was taken over by the ARP people, wasn't it? And St. John's Ambulance, I think, and the ARP had it, didn't they?
Right.
During the early war years. But the siren, one siren was up there, one was up further, I think it was about three or four. One out Walpart Road, I remember that one as well. But if you was walking down in the blackout, like, you know, and then your thing started up all of a sudden, which happened, but, you know. I mean, it was a pretty scary.
Well, then what did you do?
Well, you couldn't do nothing.
You run for home, or?
No, usually you used to look around, come down around the quay or somewhere, going up further than perhaps, where there's all night and open, until 9 times out of 10 it went, and nothing passed by.
Were there any shelters in the streets in Brixham?
Yeah, they had shelters, brick shelters and one, you know, nothing underground, was it? Like, you know,
They just
I mean, just a bit of protection here and there. Where they were now, I forget, but there was several scattered around the town, I think. But I never liked using these things.
No.
I should have been out in the open. But the first incident was late one night. I was asleep in my bedroom up there, and my aunt lived in King Street down below. But she was a nervous type, and in those houses we used to have a cellar below the road level,
Yes.
down below.
Yes.
A fine place to shelter, really, or so they were told, like, you know, in those days. So if there was, my aunt used to come up every night, regular, 9 o'clock up home, like, you know, bed down, bed down up there, like, you know, even if it's just a mattress put down, like. But this particular night, God, I was in bed. I was just gone off sleep, and they were shouting. There was this aircraft apparently going around and around, a bit lower than they thought, and was the same. You could hear this whistling thing come down, like, you know. That was my first experience, like, you know. And it landed right where they built these here. In fact, there used to be a big house there then, belonged to the owner of Upham's, Mr. Upham. And this here bomb just missed that house and exploded.
Now, which street is this in?
King Street, just
Up in
like
King Street, okay.
Yeah. The ice factory used to have the ice factory used to be on the corner.
Yeah, it was used to be up behind Upham's boatyard.
Yeah,
Yes.
this side.
This
the ice
side,
factory
okay, yeah,
was,
yes.
Used to be ice factory, and the chimney.
And a big chimney.
Yeah, it had a big chimney there.
Yes.
Well, that there chimney was twice the height. I remember that was very interesting during the 30s, because that chimney was twice as high. But for some reason they reduced the heights of them.
Right.
And to see steeplejacks working in those days,
Yeah.
that's that fella it turned in like, you know, the fella that we've had film on, but
Yeah.
they knew their stuff to know. But
Different.
they reduced that chimney, the ice factory chimney, to half its size. But that bomb came down, and between the house and the chimney, there was hardcore running down, because you could go in from underneath that house. You could in those days, like, you know, And that's where the bomb exploded on hardcore. Man, I've done a lot of damage to the glass and nobody injured. But they also dropped another bomb. Of course, I was there to play it, wasn't I? Don't.
I would have thought so.
I didn't stop there very long. Everybody else is downstairs in the cellar, see?
Yeah.
But I never liked it down there. Never liked to be indoors. So what I used to do was go out in the street.
Yeah.
And the wardens came around and they were telling us that there was another bomb had been dropped as well. And they hit this particular bungalow. It was an unexploded bomb, apparently.
Where was this then?
Well, you told me exactly, or where near enough where you lived, but as you go up around Mount Pleasant Estate,
Yes.
I'll call it Mount Pleasant
Yes,
Estate.
yes.
There's a bungalow, the first bungalow on the right-hand side, as you go up on the corner. It's still a bungalow now, I think. Next door is a big detached house called Harbour Lights.
Okay.
It used to
I
be
know you
called
are now.
Harbour
Yeah.
Lights.
And the
Next
bomb
door-
was what, in the garden?
No, it went right down through the roof.
Was that right
Right
inside?
down through the roof, and there were two sisters lived there. Two sisters that lived there, I'm sure, at the time. Of course, they evacuated and they told us, came around.
Yes,
Told
get
us.
away, yes.
So we thought, oh, we just had one miss, we won't have another one like that, will we? Like, you know. But that bomb, it must have been late summertime because it was coming light by about 6 o'clock in the
Okay.
morning. I remember
Yes.
that. And everybody was out by then, snooping around. And with the same, 6:30, that one went up, didn't it?
Oh, it did go off.
It went up 6:30, yeah. That will,
And it brought the house down on top of it?
everything, yeah, it was
Yeah.
just, yeah, oh, everything, yeah. I had a lot of damage around it,
Yes.
of course, like, you know. So that was my first experience of it. So I was a little bit more wary.
Yes.
Later
Be
on,
more careful next
it was
time.
exciting. It was exciting, Tom, because we had never experienced anything like that, wasn't it? And then the next occasion, didn't have to wait very long afterwards, during the war, they used to come in so low over the water, perhaps 50 feet up. You'd watch,
Coming in over the
six
bay.
aircraft come around from Berry Head, like,
Yes.
very often they did. Come inside the Torquay, perhaps, or else go beyond Hope's Nose. And
Yes.
come down, depending whether they was coming back here to drop their bombs in the harbour here,
Yeah.
or whether they was going to drop their bombs in Torquay, which they had a number as well. But one particular Sunday evening, I know I was a bit late getting ready to go out, and I looked out the window, you could look straight out the window. I looked out the window, I happened to see these, I thought, I wonder if that's ours, like, you know, it must be ours, like, you know. What did they say? They turned around, went out and come straight for the breakwater.
Yes.
Over there, and I stop her and stop her and stop her. And just as they come just about 30, 40 feet over the breakwater, they started lipping, letting rip with everything, like, you know. And
These are guns.
yeah,
Fire.
they're machine guns,
Yes.
and then they drop a bomb, drop their bombs as well. They used to carry one, I think. One, it was fighter bombers, wasn't it? The MO,
Yes.
the Messerschmitt at 109s. They could carry this here one bomb dropping,
Yeah.
but they used to let rip with their, to experience it, you'd think that it was tracers, wasn't it? Tracer.
Yeah.
And every one seemed like it was coming straight at them. So I dashed out the front door just as somebody was dashing in. All exciting stuff. Go down the road when there's all a bit quieter, like, you know, and the harbour was like a cauldron. It was boiling, like, you know. Yeah, and a number of ships. I remember one Belgian ship getting sunk right in the entrance. He was just going in the harbour, I think, and he got sunk right in the entrance by the. And they also, I experienced not on that particular scene, but another occasion, they hit the Silver Lining.
They hit the silver line.
Direct hit. That was one of the trawlers that was still left here. Didn't
Trawler
fish
or the
here,
silver line.
but she
Right.
was still moored out on her mooring where she used to moor, like, you know, direct hit. And so it was wonderful to see it, really. I mean,
You
nobody
took a shot.
moored there, like, you know. But it went up like matchsticks, like, you know, flying everywhere, like, you know. And then there was nothing left for, was there, like, you know, a big patch of cauldron boiling, like, you know. But a number of occasions, I was going to work. Going to work with an old chappie. I was his apprentice. We had a job to do out Berryhead Road. This here particular morning, we went up, workshop loaded up with all our gear, had a job to do at Branscombe House for, I think, Mr. Kay lived out there. He had the ironmonger shop.
Oh, yeah.
Had a job to do out there. This was 8:45 in the morning. And it was a funny old morning. It was heavy in the summertime, and it was a thick fog, mist.
Oh yes,
fog.
yes.
They came in, you could hear what it was. They sounded different than the hurricane, didn't they?
Yeah, different noise altogether.
Different noise, wasn't it? That's it coming, you could tell that, you know. And I was pushing on Barrowwood, Cape Street, just up over the southern quay wall. When they came in, right through the harbour and up through the town, they dropped one bomb, bottom of 4th Street, and there was an op licence there.
Was that the one that was in the paper last night by the Rio?
By the Rio, yeah.
Rio Cafe.
There was a soldier killed. They were billeted, I think, in the Rio, or the soldier was killed there anyway outside the Rio Fish Cafe. That used to be a 2-story building.
You're going to say that was where the bomb went, wasn't it?
No, the bomb hit next door, didn't it?
It was next door,
Next
was
door,
it?
yeah. Hit next door, but done a lot of damage to the Rio. Well, it used to be Cox's in those days. Mr. Cox, fish and chip shop.
It was still fish and chips though.
Yeah, for years, yeah, all the war years.
But what happened to the story above? Was that knocked off
Oh
by
yeah,
the
it was
bomb?
all, yeah, it was so badly damaged.
That's what I thought, yes.
They took all that down, didn't they? And then just made the one floor, like, you know, for the fish and chip shop. And it's still the same now. But the off licence, I forget who used to run that, but the son was killed sadly as well. Wasn't it? I think they killed half a dozen that morning, like, you know.
Well, wasn't that
But they had the gasworks as well.
Yeah, wasn't that the day that Hazel Pine was injured, wasn't she? Wasn't she working in Banfields?
Possibly
Or
so.
it was outside Banfields.
Possibly so.
She was
I
badly
wouldn't
injured.
Was this a daytime raid?
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
About 8:45 in the
Yes.
morning. Yeah, made an early start on that day. But it's, they were, more or less, when they occupied the Channel Islands, didn't it?
Is it that time, was it?
At about that time, soon after they occupied, they used to come in here every other day practically.
Now, wasn't there any anti-aircraft batteries or balloons?
Yeah, oh yeah, they had balloons. I don't know what they do. They never brought any of them down anyway. You know, but they had half a dozen balloons here.
Well, on the breakwater or on boats?
No, on boats. They
On
were.
boats, okay.
Scattered around the harbour.
Yeah.
I suppose they used to pick their spot and go between them. I suppose.
Yeah, fly around them,
But,
yes.
you know, yeah.
And what about guns, anti-aircraft guns?
Well, they had after a number of days, they brought a boat here, an anti-aircraft boat.
Boat.
That was, yeah.
But nothing up on the battery. That was not.
Well, I don't know whether they did. No, because that was mainly for shore defence.
That was shore defence, shooting
Yeah, I think
the,
it was
the
mainly
ships.
that was meant for shore defence.
Yes,
I think.
not for aircraft.
But all around Berryhead, they had the buffers, wasn't it? Was it the
The
buffers?
Bofors gun,
The
yes,
buffers,
yes.
anti-aircraft, wasn't it?
Yeah, they went boom.
Yeah, there was half a dozen around Berryhead because
Yeah.
in those days it was banned, wasn't it? There were certain places
You couldn't go on Berryhead in
but
those
you
days.
couldn't
could
go
you?
on,
No.
you know, because they had their anti-aircraft posts out there.
Yes.
I don't know whether the nearest one was, but this here ship, I know.
Yeah, but down to the town,
but
around
no.
the harbour, there was nothing. So they
No,
until
nothing,
this
no.
ship came.
9 times out of 10, they'd be here and gone before you
Yes,
knew,
yes.
before you knew all about it. Well, then a couple of minutes afterwards, a siren would go.
Yeah. Well, I suppose if they came in from the sea, the Royal Observatory
Yeah.
wouldn't have had much chance to say
Well,
they were coming.
There wasn't no sophisticated radar in
No,
it,
no,
was there?
no radar, no. Not for shore defence anyway.
No.
Well, I'm glad we got onto the war because that raised a lot more stories. Yes, yes.
But it went on for some time. These here, they called them hit and run raiders, didn't
Yes,
they? You know,
yes.
hit and run. And they
Just a handful of them coming in and
Yeah.
spread from small
three or
bands.
four, sometimes a half a dozen. I think it was a half a dozen because we were at the swimming pool the Sunday afternoon that they bombed Torquay and they hit the church, didn't they?
Yes.
Sunday afternoon.
With all the Sunday school
They
kills.
killed 32 Sunday school children, very tragic that was. And we saw all that happen because we were out enjoying ourselves out to Showstone swimming pool, having a swim, and we saw these half a dozen of them go right beyond it, right beyond us, nose. And then you see them coming up and
around.
everything. In fact, the one with the spire, the wing caught that one, didn't he? Knocked the top right off, and it landed up right in front of the Princess Theatre there, like, you know.
Well, the plane did, or
the plane did, yeah.
Well,
That one
plane hit
came-
the tower and crashed.
Yeah, that one came down because he
Hit the tower.
the wing, he was so low that the wing hit the spire, like, you know. They lost one there, and I think the airplanes was about that afternoon as well, and I think they shot another one down. They said as well, like, you know, or Spitfires, or we didn't see the Spitfire early in the years. It was mainly Hurricanes that we saw around here.
Where would they come from? Where would the airfield be?
Well, I think it was
Back to the
Exeter,
way-
wasn't it? Exeter, wasn't it? There was there was an airdrome air fighter. Because the airdromes was, they had the bomber
Yeah.
down near Plymouth, one of the bombers used to go from.
I think, Blake, we better let you have your cup of tea. That's been a very, very interesting session altogether. Thank you very much indeed. Blake Glanville, 23rd of May,
Thank you.
2002. Thank you very much.
I hope it's been interesting anyway.
Oh, that's tremendous. Yeah, that's great.
Jack always says, once we have a cup of tea,
That's right, that's
the
a starting
stories-
off.
the
Well,
stories
it
go
certainly
get much
did,
better.
Mrs. Pillar. It really did. She was funny, Blake. Bob Curtis had been speaking to Christine, you see, about her father and the Provident and all the rest of it, and they were out in the conservatory. Anyway, they came in for coffee and sat down. And Mrs. Pillar had already told us about how she met Cher.
Yeah.
So Bob said to her, well, how did you come living in Manchester, you're working in the cotton mills? She said, how come you met Cher Pillar down here? So she didn't hear him. So I turned to her and I said, Alice, I said, can you tell us about meeting Cher? I already told you that, she said, on the film, back a bit.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, but Bob wasn't here then. Oh, it's for him. Because he goes through it all again. Because Jack's got it all on tape. Oh, it's ever so funny.
you see, I mean, she's really sharp, really with it.
She was,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? She's 96. She looks after herself at home. She does her own shopping, her own cooking and cleaning. And twice a week she goes down the other side of Cardiff, which is the equivalent of going over to Babbacombe from here, on the bus, to meet up with her friends.
Goodness me,
Yeah.
wonderful, isn't
Absolutely wonderful. And she's
Yeah.
as clean as a new pin.
it? Get away.
Yeah.
Where does she live now?
She lives up in Cardiff.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
lovely.
don't live too far from Ken and Chris, I suppose.
Yeah.
Up from here, say to
Yeah.
top of Ranscombe, perhaps from them. You know, they're not very far from her. But,
I was very glad you were able to
Oh,
arrange
fantastic.
for her to chat. with
Lovely,
us.
isn't it?
It is nice. It is
Yeah,
nice,
if you got something like that.
Yes.
I tell you what, I got another one. Do you remember up on here we had a
What's your point?
apprenticeship in a frame, an apprenticeship of Alf Smith?
Yes.
Well, John, I had a cup of coffee with John yesterday morning, and
Yeah.
he said, "Do you know that lady going out there?" Of course, I only saw the background. I said, "No, that's Alf Smith's wife." So he's going to see if we can arrange up
Not
to
his
see if
wife,
she's willing.
no, not his wife.
Hey?
She died years before.
Well, I thought.
His daughter,
Yes.
probably. His daughter,
Ah, he
Eileen.
told me it was his
Yeah,
wife.
his daughter, Eileen.
He said Alf died
He's
about
the
10
first
years
on the
ago.
board, he is, first up there on the board up there, the Alf Smith. Alf was not, wasn't he?
No, he's 1991, that's right, he died 10 years ago.
Yeah,
Alf Smith.
his wife had died a few years previous.
Ah, he got it wrong. Oh, it's good to check the map. But he
Yeah,
said
'cause,
she's the girl to get hold of to talk about the sailing ships and that.
That would be
You know.
old Alf's daughter, that
Oh, so we'll have to double check with John on that then
Yeah.
to make sure. But he's going to contact it and see if we can make a film.
Some characters there, because of course when I finished work eventually, after I finished with the fire service, which I was 56 years old then, I got this little job here eventually, like, you know, come down in softball.
Yeah.
They had advertised it first, but he had to take on, he told me he had to take on a younger man that was off the employment agency or something. He said, well, we'll bear you in mind if the job comes up again.
Yeah.
And it wasn't long after, it's not a young man's job anyway, was it, the job? But it was ideal for me because I wanted to earn a few extra pounds, like, you know.
Yeah.
And Paul rang me. He said, if you want to come down and have a chat about the job, it's open at the moment before I advertise it. So I came down and saw Paul. He said, well, give it a month's trial. He said, see if
You were in.
see if it suits you, see if it suits us. I was here 11 years then.
Yes,
That
yes.
I was something
Yes.
on that, you know.
Yes.
So,
Well, that's the way things were done in those days.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah.
It was a much smaller community,
Until the-
everybody knew. each
so the
other.
Arby town, those 11 years of my life here.
Yes.
Because a lot of the younger generation even, like
Yeah.
Ken Gibbs, I was talking to Ian, met Ian on the way there and he was walking up. And we had a chat and they always used to come in here. And this was a busy place then. Monday mornings, I mean in the early 90s, late 80s now. God, blimey.
How many?
Well, this place, when did I start here? But everything used to be full up.
It was full up. I mean, you say 80?
No, the
No,
years.
Oh, in the
in the
years.
years,
Yeah. So I can't
No, they had
imagine people getting in there.
Well, no, they had the extension built because
Oh,
they were
because
so busy.
they were so
then,
busy.
you know.
Yes, yes.
The father
Yeah.
part of the canteen.
Yes.
There was only that little part first,
Yeah,
like,
yes.
you know. And I mean, Mondays and Fridays, that was the busiest time. Like,
Yes.
You know. They'd be in and out. The market they started the market at 5 o'clock, you know. But then you used to be up here for breakfast. I used to start at 8:30. Used to be 3 girls down in the canteen. Christine, still, she was there then. She was here. Although Christine did afternoon, she didn't do morning. But the other 3 girls, you know, they was on the go from 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
They used to start 7. They used to be glad to see me come in at 8:30. I said, well, I can start earlier if you want me to. No, that's all right, Paul said. But all I did then Mondays and Fridays was pick up the breakfast plates and the mugs, take them in, and because they run out of plates eventually,
Yes.
you know. And if you put them in the washing machine, fill up the washing machine, it takes half an hour cycle. It is the washing machine. We can't wait half an
I'd
hour.
like for you to get the plates back.
I used to wash so many off first, like, you know, under the hot tap,
Yeah.
hot water, like, you know.
Yeah.
Wash them off, the worst of it all, stick them in the washing machine, and then if they were short of plates, they'd be shouldn't if you're running short of plates, all right, I'll wash a few more.
The rest of them by hand.
You know, wash them behind and wash them behind.
Yeah.
Keep them going, like, you know. And then be out past 9, it used to drop off again, like, you know. But,
As they say, Blake, those were the days.
those were the days,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and another part of my life really was the fire service, of course. That was an interesting part of my life, joining it, you know.
Where were you based then?
In the town here,
In
yeah.
the town.
Yeah.
Was it the station where it is now?
Yeah, still there, yeah.
Bond Street,
Yeah. They've been talking about a new fire station for years and years, but
But not in Northern Ireland.
it's
Keep
still the
on
same
talking.
one. I mean, that was, I've been finished 20 years and now I was in it 20-some years, so that was 50 years ago there. The ambulance station used to be next door.
That's right.
Yeah,
I spent a lot of time in there with.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah.
Oh, I can't think of his name for a
It was
second.
good times. One of our chappies that was in the retirement.
Al Vincent.
Oh, Alf was there,
Alf
yeah,
Vincent,
that's
yeah.
right, Alf, yeah.
Well, I got the job down here to work with Al Vincent when his partner went. Remember that chap came from London? So
Yeah.
I got the job here
Did you?
to work with him. But we found out
when we went to it, just as I was about to give my notice in Cardiff, that they were superannuated down here.
Get away.
They were St John's on contract to Devon
Oh.
County Council.
I see,
And I was advised by a few people, don't jump out of the fat into the fire, because I was already paying superannuation, see, because I'd done a couple of years in Cardiff by then.
yeah.
This was 1963,
Yeah,
and I had a few years under my belt, you see, up the city by then.
yeah.
And my chief said, I don't want to stand in your way, but he said they may do the same down there as they did in Cardiff.
Yeah.
Got rid of all the St John's people, but their own council people.
Yeah.
Get on,
You see?
brother.
And he said you could be down there out of work. And if you remember in the early 60s, before they started the cooperative, the fishing had gone as well.
Yeah.
It was only 10 boats here altogether
Yeah.
at that time. And so I turned it down. And I said to Al Vincent, why? And he said, well, I don't blame you. He said, they're not going to get rid of me. But he said, I was on the council before, I can still pay superannuation. He said, I came off the council onto this on condition I could keep my pension.
Yeah.
You see? So he was all right, but me coming
Yeah.
in new. Anyway, this
Yeah.
chap came down from London, and of course Steve didn't worry about his superannuation. It blew me 6 months later. They took it on full time, the Devon County Council, and they superannuated him. Of course, lost my chance there. And the next move I made to come down here was when I was promoted, went in the control room, and I applied for the control room officer, got that job,
Yeah.
and then they made a snap decision that they decided instead of Torbay running its own service, as with the original plan, they moved the control room to Exeter. They went out to Devon County. And I thought, heck, I'm not summertime travelling from here to Exeter and back every day to
Oh,
work.
no.
So I turned it down again, because that was it.
Like a fire service.
So I
control.
lost out on that.
Cliff St. George, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fire service control.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a wonderful organisation, though. I mean, there was a vacancy, and a couple of mates of mine said, come on, come down and see John Dodd. They made arrangements. I had an appointment this Monday evening, 7 o'clock, like, you know. I said, have a word with him. Come on, you'll be all right. And I used to think to myself, I don't know whether I'm cut out for that, like, you know. Because for a start, like, you know, I was still had me football. And I went down anyway on the Monday evening, and Dougie was there anyway, Bubbles Neal, you know.
Yeah.
He was in it before me. Most of them was older than me, and I always used to think that there was a bit of a fraternity, like, you know, a bit of
Yeah.
clique, like, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I want to get involved, like, I don't think I could.
Relative
fit
old
in.
friends.
I could
Join the club.
I don't know whether
Yeah.
I could fit in or not, like, you know. And for a start, when I first went down, I thought it was voluntary. He never explained to me that the retained service, you had a retainer. You did 12 months. First 12 months you was on like a probation on it. Like, you had to do your training, like, you know, the basic training. You had to go to the fire service. I had to go to Barnstable of all places, to tell you the truth. That was north then,
Yeah.
because there was a course on at that
Oh, yeah,
time
yeah.
when I joined. So Saturday,
Over you
when I
went.
finished work, Saturday, I had to go up there for the weekend. Saturday, Bartle, they took me up, of course, in the fire service van, and they brought me back Sunday night, you know. But that's where I did my initial, I had to do 4 weekends for a start. And then, of course, every Thursday night for 2 hours. And then if you were suitable after the first 12 months, you was on the retained, like, you know,
Yeah.
retained fireman. But when I went, he had some paperwork to do first, and I was getting a bit. John was in there. I never knew it. I knew he was a builder, betrayed here. One of the Dodd brothers, builders. In fact, it was a family like a lot of fire service. Like a lot of fire service blokes, they tend to, their sons tend to join
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And John Dodd was station officer then, and he had taken over from his father, which is very unusual
Yeah.
for a son to take over from the father. Perhaps later on,
Yes. Yes. They would follow
after his
in,
father
but
retired,
not to take the job.
followed
Yes.
him on, you know, after you promoted
Yes,
and all,
yes.
all that, after you stepped up a ladder, another rung, you know that.
Yeah.
But he took over from his father, and the service they did between them, his old man did about 40 years. He did another 40 as well. They had put in about 80 years, father and son, to the fire service, right, you know.
Amazing.
So which was, and the same thing happened in Dartmouth as well. Peter Denner, he took over, not from his father at the time, but his father was also. And the other one that took over after John had retired, Bill Burnell, another builder here. His father was station officer in Payton, like, you know.
Yeah.
So, and Tom Radford up Teignmouth. Now up Teignmouth, Radford, they've been, the name Radford up Teignmouth is fire service for donkey's years, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, the grandfather,
Yeah.
father,
Family tradition.
come
Yes,
down and
yes.
down like that, which is wonderful, really.
Yes.
Yeah. But when I eventually, anyway, John said, I'm sorry to keep you waiting because I had some paperwork I had to get off. And then he explained me what the position was like, you know, to join the retain. You've got to do your 4 weekends, basic training, and every Tuesday night. Then he said, of course I had a young family then as well, my boy and I don't know whether I had two anyway, my eldest son and my daughter. My younger son came along a few years afterwards, Michael. But I think he said, every quarter you get your retainer, £8.50 a quarter it was. This was 1955.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He said, our average shouts, he said, here is about 70 a year. He said, he said, you're on 24-hour cover. I said, what does that mean, 24-hour cover? I'll go pay that thing.
I can't stay up for 24 hours, yeah.
He said, we'll wake you up all right. You have bells installed, like, you know.
In your house?
In the house, yeah. You had
really?
bells
That's
installed.
how they did it.
On the telephone line it was, wasn't it? Like,
Yeah.
off the telephone system, your bills. So, and you know, I've slept through their bills to start with very often, like, you know.
Yeah.
My wife used to wake me up. Strange that, like that bell ringing, they used to be just inside the front door. The bell, and he'd go.
You had 1 minute to get out, did you? Something like that.
He'd go like, well, I don't know how long he kept on, a couple of minutes I think he used to ring for, like, you know. He never woke me up, but he used to wake the neighbours up.
Everyone knew there was a fire somewhere.
Him on the bills, like, you know, middle of the night. But you do get used to it.
Then you wake up.
And I said, well, I'll give it a go, Mr. Dodd. See what happens. I'll do my training like I'm expected to. And give it a try for 12 months, like, you know. He said, well, there it is. That's all we can do. See how it goes. If you want to pack it in, it's up to you. So, but then, got used to everything, like, you know, and 27 years.
So you kind of stayed after that.
27 years, oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It was exciting, really, because it was a challenge, wasn't it?
Yes.
We had some wonderful gear to work with, like, you know. That's what opened my eyes, really, like, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the ladders that we had been used to on the buildings, I mean, it was rubbish, wasn't it? Like, you know, when you work with a fire service gear, like, you know, well maintained, tested and all that, like, you know, and beautiful equipment, like, you know, and of course it progressed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
There's some stuff now.
over that time.
Everything
yes.
changed. I mean, what it's like now, I don't know. It must be.
Even more so now,
Oh
I guess.
God, yeah.
Yes.
The technology nowadays, like, you know. But
Yes.
yeah, it was a wonderful experience. It was. But and the ambulance chaps next door, very often we were called out together.
Yeah,
weren't
that's
we,
right.
you know, job together.
Yeah.
Now, if we were, you could say perhaps it was an RTA, road traffic accident. Didn't go much on that, but I was always.
Well,
I always
yes.
admired we never used to call them paramedics then.
No, not them, because
Not
they
in-
weren't
but the ambulance
paramedics.
chaps, there was something about those chaps that had all of them, like, you know,
Yeah.
that I knew in the ambulance service. In fact, one of the more retained chaps, he's still in it now. Jim, he's a paramedic, of course, now. He got all the passes, all his exams and all the modern equipment that they got, like, you know. Jim, I forget what his surname is, but he went into the ambulance service, like,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, and if we were caught, there was one nasty incident I remember always, like road traffic, one late evening it was, weekend it was, I remember. 5 youngsters in a car on the Kingsford Road. Came from Torquay on a joyride. The boy that pitched his father's car was only 15-year-old. He was the driver, like, you know.
Yeah.
Going down over the Kingsford Road, like, going too fast. Couldn't take that bottom turn and down that bike. Plowed over and over. Incidents like that, you know. The car finished upright, it's true, like, but so badly damaged. And of course, you didn't know where to start, really. Even with the equipment you had then, like, you know, because you couldn't open doors or anything like that, could you? There was one chappie in the back, youngster, he wasn't too badly injured yet, because the amateur chap said, don't worry about him, if he's shouting and hollering, he ain't too badly hurt.
That's it.
He said, always look for the driver first, because nearly always they get trapped on them in the clutch and all that, like, you know, they're clutching away, like. But I admired it, you know. I used to think he was a boy, very calm and, like, you know, if you had a job like that. But then later on, when we got them different equipment, you could cut a roof off and some of them could.
Yes.
I never used to like handling the thing.
No, okay, you got
A little petrol motor thing,
Yes.
or something, you pulled the start with,
Stand up.
and you only had to cut around the front and round the side, leave the back part, round the front of the side, and bend it back.
yeah,
over,
like it
turn it back over,
to the sardines, yeah.
and using for getting anybody out over.
Oh, I
as well,
see,
like,
that's how you used to do it.
Yeah, that was a godsend, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The hydraulic spacers.
Oh yeah, the spacers. And you never believe what they move, would he? Like, you know, just a little pump on it, like,
That's
you know,
right.
hydraulic.
Incredible stuff.
Incredible, wasn't it? Like, you know, that all came
Like
out.
a little grease gun.
Yeah.
Like a little grease gun.
You sure you pump, right?
And he's out.